Ezekiel Elliott is coming into this season motivated after recovering from the coronavirus that caused him to miss a month worth of workouts this offseason. He says he's been working on his receiving game and practicing a lot from the slot. He says he has a lot to prove and he has high expectations for himself this season. So my question for you, Clarence, do you expect a bounce back year from Zeke?
Okay, let me say this in my Trey Larkins voice. Ezekiel Elliott is elite. He's an elite running back. Of course, I'm expecting him a bounce back year. And last year was still impressive though, but it's not Ezekiel Elliott numbers. Like we know, if you think about it, this guy averaged almost 1,300 rushing yards a season. Like, and that's a good average from an elite running back. And he set the tone there. He's an elite quarterback. He was the 4th overall pick in the 2017 NFL draft. So you expect him to have a bounce back year. Like you're one of the leaders. As you say, he's the best player. He's the best player on the Dallas Cowboys team. He has to lead by example. And I agree with you. Like, because Dak Prescott having his contract situation, he just having a situation. But Ezekiel Elliott, he is the main focal point on his team. And if he has a great year, it's all because of him. And now you say he was working in the slot. He's wanting to catch the ball more. I think that's a great idea. I think once you see like another running back like Christian McCaffrey catching the ball out, line up at the slot, it should make you want to do the same. Help your team out. I think that he'll have a great bounce back year if you ask me.
Yeah, and last year his numbers statistically weren't bad. He had 301 carries, 1,300 rushing yards on the season, 12 rushing touchdowns. He also had 54 receptions and 2 touchdowns on the season. I like to see him catch more passes out of the backfield. I like to see him creep his way into that 70 to 80 receptions a year category because in 2018, Clarence, he had 77 receptions on the season. But I don't think he had necessarily a bad year last year. I just think the issue for the Cowboys was they were always trailing on the scoreboard. Therefore, Ezekiel Elliott got taken out of the game plan. When you are losing in football games, you have to pass the football to get back into games. And I think people forgot how great Ezekiel Elliott is as a running back. You got to remember, so far in his career, in the first 4 years in his career, 3 of those 4 seasons, he's had over 1,000 rushing yards. And then the 1 year he didn't have 1,000 rushing yards, he had 983 rushing yards. That was in 2017. So he still had close to 1,000 rushing yards, in that particular season. So he's pretty much rushed for over 1,000 yards his entire career. This is an elite back in Ezekiel Elliott. Make no mistake about it. When you talk about the top running backs in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, we talk about these elite backs. Ezekiel Elliott deserves to be in that conversation.
Yeah, like you said, you can't talk about no best running back without Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, regardless of how you list your running backs, if you don't mention Ezekiel Elliott, I think you need some help in football, man. Like, and one thing too, he excels in. He's a great blocker. He's a good blocker for his team. So he knows he's like an all-around back, but he doesn't do a lot. He doesn't do a lot because they want to utilize him on the run design plays, instead of lining him up slide or have him catching out the backfield. The most he probably catch out the backfield is more like the screen plays. As you see for Christian McCaffrey, he's lined up as a receiver out wide, slot, even jumbo packages. Like he's more involved into the game plan. And I think Ezekiel Elliott needs to be involved with the game plan as well because he means a lot to that team. And like since he been drafted in 2016, he has the best average of yards per game in a long time at 101 yards. I think that is impressive. That is something that you should expect from Ezekiel Elliott. And like you stated, he had 983 rushing yards in 2017. Regardless, he was going through that domestic violence with his girlfriend. He was still productive. He was productive through that season that got them over the hump enough to, hey, we can make a playoff push. I think when you have a player like Ezekiel Elliott, you're reliable. You can do anything. I can throw the ball 20 or 30 times. I got the best running back in the league or behind me that can clear up all this trash. Like if you actually think about it, like I think that he needs to be more value to the team. I feel like they need to value him more.
And I think too, because we're in a passing league, we fell in love with the Alvin Kamaras of the world and the Aaron Jones of the world. We forget about an elite power back and Ezekiel Elliot. Ezekiel Elliot, he isn't a very fast, elusive back, but he's quick and he'll run you over. One player cannot just bring down Ezekiel Elliott by himself. More times than not, you have to gang tackle Ezekiel Elliott. He's the kind of running back so where if he gets 3 yards, because he's so strong, he powers his way into getting 5 yards. A 5-yard gain will be a 7-yard gain. He runs hard, man. And I think we got to show some appreciation to Ezekiel Elliott. I still think he's a top 5 running back as far as I'm concerned. But let's move on to the next question of this segment. Despite all the weapons offensively that the Cowboys have on their team, how important is it for the Cowboys to run the football this season?
Good question. That was a good question. I think it's important to make a standpoint in your offensive game plan. I think that if Dak Prescott is like I'm sad to say this, he's playing for another contract. So he gonna want all the attention. But I think it's more important than you have an established run game. Like you need to have Zeke running the ball at least 20 times a game. 25 is to lead the pack. He's a 3-down pack. To run it, like you said, we fell in love with the passing attack in this NFL, and we forgot about the strong running game. Well, the San Francisco 49ers didn't make us forget because they was a good running team, and the Minnesota Vikings. But the Cowboys definitely have to value the running game because they're playing in a division that really doesn't really have a good rush defense. I mean, the Eagles are dealing with a lot of injuries on the D-line. The Giants, we know the Giants has never been good. And the Redskins, they have a nice D-line, but how good is they against the rush defense? I think Ezekiel Elliott, he can wear down a lot of defenses when you're running the ball with him. So if you don't run the ball with him, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, and it's going to be another terrifying season.
Yeah, and I don't think Dak Prescott is the kind of quarterback that you can drop back to throw the ball 30 or 40 times a game and put the game in his hands and expect him to deliver for your team to win football games. I just don't see it. I think you have to have the play action going and have Ezekiel Elliott be effective in order for Dak Prescott to be effective. I love the first round pick that they got and CeeDee Lamb. I think he has a promising future. They signed Amari Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million deal this offseason. And I like Michael Gallup. He has tremendous upside as well. But I think you got to involve Ezekiel Elliott in the running game in order to have the success that the Cowboys ultimately want to have